You're now listening to an archive episode of Or So I Thought, back when the podcast went by a different name. I really hope you enjoy it, and please make sure to listen to our new stuff. So, after you're done here, just scroll up, pick a new episode, and press play. There's a story that's been circulating for some time about the great artist and sculptor Michelangelo. According to legend, when they first exhibited the statue of David that Michelangelo created 500 years ago, a fan came up to the artist and said, "I'm in awe. How could you have created such a masterpiece as the statue of David?" To which Michelangelo replied, "It's easy. You just start with a big rock and then chip away everything that isn't David." Now, it's very unlikely that Michelangelo actually said this, but there is another quote that I think is truer to reality. The famous artist once said, "Every block of stone has a statue inside it, and it is the task of the sculptor to discover it." This episode is about just that. If we, at birth, are like a block of stone, and there is a masterpiece within this block of stone, then how do we find it? Better yet, how do we create this magnificent sculpture that is our ideal self? And I mean this in every sense of the term. Our ideal personality, skill set, body, everything. I recruited some help to answer this question. Her name is Miss New.
People have always said, like, I love reading what you write. Some of the stuff you say, I get like, yeah, fuck yeah, you're right. Because I'm always speaking what I feel, which is the truth. It has to be.
Miss New, or Adre as we call her, is a good friend. She's a competitive bodybuilder with multiple shows under her belt. Also a dance instructor, and she does both these things while still holding down a full-time position as director for a major pharmaceutical tech company. She's learned a thing or two, the hard way, on how to go about transforming into who you're really meant to be. She's full of energy, sometimes maybe even too much. But no, seriously, 10,000 followers on Instagram can't be wrong. Her posts will make you dance, cry, and laugh, probably all at the same time. Look her up, New Mind Body Soul, as in NU Mind Body Soul, after you listen to this episode, of course. I spoke to Miss New about how she found her way, what we can do to create our ideal selves, and what steps have recently led her to a major breakthrough in her fitness dreams. I learned a lot of things about her that I didn't know before, including a very dark moment in her life that changed her perspective on how she lives. You'll see what I mean. It was the moment that set off her journey. This moment for her happened in 2014.
I felt like I had to make a lot of changes, starting with my relationship. I was with somebody for 7 years, very long time, on and off. There was a lot of madness in that relationship, a lot of jealousy, a lot of cheating, a lot of lying, which are hand in hand. Terrible at the job. Still working at the same company, but I was working for someone, reporting to someone who just didn't really fit what I would call, just a nice person. We'll keep it simple, right? So bad relationship, wasn't happy at work, wasn't happy with my boss. Also lived at home. I mean, I love my family, I love my mom, but sometimes you need, there's a time when you need space for you. Living in probably a room just the size of some people's closets. I had no doors, and I tell people this story because it matters. It matters privacy-wise. I never really had privacy, and then just physically, I didn't feel good about myself. Wasn't eating healthy, and everything kind of came crumbling down on me in 2014. It was very bad. I remember getting into a huge fight at home, leaving my home to take my computer work somewhere else. Work was just terrible. And then reaching out to the person I was in a relationship with, also terrible. So these three things led to April 16th. Words are very powerful. Let me start off by saying that. And the person I was with, him and I were arguing. And he looked over at me and said, as part of the argument was just another jealous argument, complaining about something. And he had turned over and said, you know, you should be lucky that I'm with you. And that wasn't the first time, you know, that's been said. But something, I don't know what, something in me switched. I guess I hit enough of a low for it to flip up and kind of turn me off. And yeah, a couple of weeks later, I had just fallen into such a deep depression from that switch that I tried to kill myself. I share that story with everybody. Had grabbed some razors and I went for my wrists, which is very movie-like, but it goes to show you can't really sever them the way that you can. I ended up learning later on. So just a true amateur, I would call it, but it goes to show you I didn't really want to go. It was more of an attention thing. Went to the hospital, was under watch for a week. Kind of kept it under the wraps because everybody knew me as the happy, right? Which, funny enough, I am. But I wasn't really being the person that I was meant to be. I spent, I would probably say 29 years of my life kind of following rules, someone else's rules, about who I should be, what I should say, where I should go and how I should dress, who I should date. And I thought at the time that was life. It was somebody else's script. Until April 16th, when someone tells you that, you know, you're lucky that you're with them. And then you realize, you know what, nobody's fault. I've somehow, over the span of this amount of time, have allowed myself to think I'm less. And that is what pushed me.
Every hero's journey, every story of achievement, all starts with a crucial moment. For some, it's a lucky break, a breakthrough. But more often, like it was for Miss New, this moment was what can only be described as rock bottom. J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, gave a speech about her struggles. And in it, she gives us hope by saying, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." So what did Miss New do to start on her journey after hitting rock bottom?
Well, it took me some time to recuperate mentally, just from being under watch for a week. And so it took me a couple of months. I would say probably I moved out first, and then I stepped into a gym. So around September, I would say.
September 2014?
Yeah, September of 2014. I moved out of my house, moved into Harlem, rented a room, didn't know my roommates, just winged it. It's like, I'll just, you know what, if that's what happiness looks like, if that's what I have to do, then I'll do it. And yeah, that's when I stepped into a gym, September 2014.
Okay. What were your intentions stepping into the gym?
Honestly, intentions were just to go in and at the very least, work on looking good. Because at least I have that. And you know what? I let that feed me, but it kept me here.
I think this gives us a powerful first tool towards creating our ideal selves. When it's darkest, when the storm has ravaged everything we have, the best next step is simply to take stock. Look around. There's always something worth saving. There's a hidden talent or skill that we have, and no amount of suffering can take that away. If anything, it's strengthened by fire. Maybe we can't see it, but others can.
I'm about a week into the gym, still fresh out of a breakup, still fresh out of moving out, kind of leaving my old life, right? And one of the personal trainers at one of the gyms in Harlem just came up to me and said specifically what I just was hanging on to. Hey, you have a nice body. There's the thing I hung on to. I hung on to it long enough that there, yet again, somebody noticed.
How did he say it in a way?
She.
Like, she. Oh, it's a she. Okay.
And that's why I say that story like that purposely, because I wanted you to say that. Because the assumption is, and that's okay, but it's the assumption that, yeah, a guy would say, you know, interesting enough, a woman. She goes, her name is Sariko, by the way, Sariko Campbell. Sariko comes up to me and says, man, you got to have a great figure. What do you do? I'm like, I don't do anything. And she goes, so you're telling me you don't do anything or looking like that? And she was so excited. She was more excited than me. So she must have saw something in me that I didn't see myself, which obviously. And she said, listen, I'm a bodybuilder. I'm working out of this gym with a coach. You know, come by. Here's my phone number. No pressure. And she was very easygoing. Hit me up when you're ready. And that's how I started. It took me about 2 weeks to kind of contact her. I was like, I don't know, body.
We've reached an important fork in the road here. For Miss New, she's taking baby steps towards becoming her ideal self, picking up the pieces. Does she really want to risk the progress made for some pie in the sky? In the next section, we'll see how Miss New enters this whole new world. After debating for about 2 weeks, Miss New eventually called the trainer that had noticed her at the gym. The trainer eventually convinced her to go through a practice exhibition with other aspiring competitors, just as a simple test to herself, you know, to see if it's a hobby she wanted to pursue.
I walk in, of course, super intimidated as all these women fit as all heck. And I'm like, man, what am I getting myself into, right? So he looks at me, and I learned a lot later on, but he looked at me, turned around, and tells me, in 7 weeks you could do a show. Now, funny story is, I didn't know this at the time, but it normally takes someone 12 to 16 weeks to properly do a show. But because of my genetics, you know, he felt that if I pushed hard enough and I followed through, that I would be able to place in a national show, which that I did on my first try, 3rd place.
This success invigorated her. But just even getting onto that stage the first time, being able to place 3rd amongst hundreds of competitors, this took massive amounts of effort and sacrifice. I wanted to know a little about the prep towards a bodybuilding show. What are the rough patches along the way?
I'd say every month there's a change. There's a physical change, there's a emotional change, and there's definitely a mental change. I'd say every month you lose a little bit of that strength, and you have to work a little bit harder. I'll explain to you how that works. Let's just say, for example, physically. Your diet starts to get decreased, right? Now you're getting less food, so now you require more energy to do more workouts, right? So in of itself, you have less strength, but by virtue of breaking through that and being able to just do a little bit more, you actually gain more strength at the end of the show, which will carve you out a little bit better. So I don't know if that makes sense. I'll translate that into an emotional approach too. Now you're pushing more, you're eating less, right? You're on this restricted at a caloric deficit essentially. You're pushing more weight. And now the way you handle life is a little bit different. Now you're tired, you're stressed. So now little things that were once little when you were eating normal now can get on your nerves. So now you have to manage the emotional component of being patient, of being still disciplined and not giving into the chips that all your friends are eating around you. So there's that challenge of like the you once were is now getting cut down, and it's like it's, how do I put it? It's like an experiment, a social experiment, really. If I put you under these measurements, under these constrained in this box, what will you do? Where will you quit? What will make you budge? That's really what bodybuilding does.
Personal transformation for all of us is indeed a sort of emotional roller coaster, if you will. And as Miss New said, more than an internal struggle, it's also a social experiment. Your inner self isn't the only one you'll be wrestling with during the process.
And you'd be surprised when you change, people don't like change. My family had a hard time. I mean, my family's Dominican, from Dominican Republic, and culturally, there was that tear of you're looking like a guy, whatever that means.
Resistance will come at you from all angles. It'll take on many shapes to try and keep you where you are, in your cocoon, forever just a regular caterpillar. But Adre was never destined to be regular. She persevered through the prep towards that first show, and then show number 2 and 3 and so on. She's a veteran in the game now, and she's learned a lot in the process.
To look at your body, sculpted and chiseled out, and know that, again, aside from the coaching and the guidance on the food, the best thing about bodybuilding is that every single part of the way, it was you. It's you. Everything that you're looking at is a product of your discipline, your perseverance, your commitment. I mean, hello, right? But most importantly, the belief that you could actually look like that. Because you have to see it first. You have to know that this shoulder press I'm doing is to look this certain way. If not, why do it? Why do it? So that day of the show, I could honestly say, if I were to categorize in one word, it's empowering.
And the great thing about transforming into a higher version of yourself is it permeates into the rest of your life. The tools you pick up in one thing, whether it's a hobby that makes you money or not, these tools help you in all the other areas of your life.
I'll start with the time management. I mean, we're talking 2 sessions a day at the gym. I'm traveling an hour and a half to see my coach, you know? Also training on my own, which means finding my own gym, finding my own time to train myself. Still having time for friends, still having time for fun, having time for me, relationships, dating. I mean, the list goes on, you know? I still live. And time management, fitting that in. Bodybuilding requires a lot of time, a lot of training, a lot of dedication, a lot of rest, making sure I'm sleeping at the right time. So for me, time management, I learned that within the bodybuilding, taking that back to corporate in my pharmacy position. I work from home, meaning I'm really my own boss. So managing the calls, right? Managing sometimes the power naps I'd have to take because today, you know what, it's a low carb day. How do I fit that in? You know what, I don't have a lunch break, I take a nap. So utilizing the time management in the bodybuilding, I crossed that into the corporate, and it helped.
And the biggest skill she's picked up from the bodybuilding?
Patience. Sometimes I think at work in general, everyone could relate to this. I can be a little impatient sometimes. A lot of times. In getting the result, I want, you know, sometimes I can be an overachiever. So just waiting. There's a lot to say in the silence of it. And bodybuilding's big on that. How do I know what change is coming? I'm literally working out assuming that this shoulder is going to look like what I need it to look like. Assuming this glute's going to look like what I need it to look like. There's a level of patience and faith which go together. I find those two things to be yin and yang. Can't have one without the other.
I think this is a good time to run back the major takeaways from the story that can help us create our ideal selves. First, when things look bleak, we gotta take stock. There's always at least one thing that can serve as a foundation towards transformation. Secondly, small victories are our best ally, even if it's just someone recognizing our talents from afar. Next, I'd say that it'd be to live by your own choices, set your own standards. Remember, people fear change, but if you're not afraid of the sacrifices you'll have to make, others have no reason to be afraid either. They'll get with the program soon enough. And lastly, remember that you'll need a little bit of patience mixed in with a whole lot of faith. Now, in the next section, let's see what exciting new things are happening with Miss New. What are the next steps in this transformation? The eagle has landed. The horse is in the barn. Miss New is living her life by her terms and is making her mark in the process. So what's next? What are the next goals within this world of fitness and health?
It would be achieving a professional card, a pro card. Now you go against the best of the best, and the top 2 in your lineup will get a pro card. Sometimes just first place, depending on the show. You get your pro card. post competing, aside from the promotions that you'll get and sponsors are looking at the top two, the promotions from the bag promotions, clothing, food, people that pay for, obviously, there are people that prep your meals. They have companies for that. They'll do that if you're a bodybuilder, so now you don't have to prep your meals. If you're a professional, obviously. And some non-pros too, depending on how exposed you are in the sport. But the sponsorships is really where it's at. Magazines, personal training, people will look towards you for that. So there's a lot involved in it, in the business portion. The motivational speaking, that's a part of it as well.
Like I said earlier, she's having a great impact on others looking to become their best selves. She does this through training others, through being a speaker. She's also a dance teacher, and one of the most entertaining social media follows, bar none. And the world is starting to take note. Just a couple weeks ago, she made a big breakthrough in her pursuits.
Something that I actually told myself in the beginning of 2016, my one goal, long-term goal this year is I want to be in a magazine. I said it once. So Muscle and Fitness, hers, reached out to me, via Facebook and said, hey, listen, we've been watching your posts. We like what you see. We like what we see. Interested in doing a spread, right? And this is off season, which means that it's not showtime. I'm not ready. But funny enough, Jim Rohn inspired me. One of the things he said is that opportunities, is ensuring. One of the things in opportunities is making sure that you're prepared. So what I had done a couple months before to make sure that I still looked the part. So anyway, and because I invested in that and was prepared, here came this opportunity. So I was shoot ready, which normally takes some time. And the guy goes, well, can you do in a week? And funny enough, I was fit enough to be in the magazine, and was about a week I could do some damage. So I dieted out for a week, end up going to this location spot in Brooklyn, this private gym, for powerlifters. Great setup, great photographers. And I didn't know, never been prepped to do a fitness magazine. And you know what? I didn't care. I didn't care because all I knew was that this was making me feel good. It would work out. March edition of Muscle and Fitness, hers. Go on and pick it up. I have a 6-page spread, and it's a barbell workout. So essentially, it's just how to work out different body groups utilizing an actual barbell, which is the weight. So for example, they made me do a rollout, which is taking the actual barbell, holding it down on the floor, kind of like an ab roller, but using the barbell for that. So it's just utilizing barbells for creative ways of doing something else instead of just a classic deadlift, which they had me do as well. So stiff like that. Yeah, it was amazing.
The 6-page spread she got in the magazine is truly a sight to behold. Seeing the confidence she exudes, and knowing the journey she's been through, I can only watch in awe of the growth she's achieved. We can all learn from her, because hopefully, if you're listening to this, then you realize, like I do, the importance of becoming our best self. There's no guarantee that this will be easy. Actually, the guarantee is that it will be anything but easy. Remember, unlike the story of the statue of David, we are both the stone and the sculptor.
All the world knows what I'm saying. All the world knows what I'm saying. The world will find, the world will find, the world will find.
The website is in the works, but I do have the domain. So the website's going to be Miss Knew It All. MISSNUITALL, Miss Knew It All. Little play on words, of course. And also my Instagram, New Mind Body Soul. So New NU, Mind Body Soul. And then on Facebook, Miss New.